just to revisit Richard Spencer and his weird take on Ukraine and the worldview that he has kind of whipped up in an effort to, as one of you pointed out, to be in conformity with the prescribed ideology in all of its permutations of the powers that be as they presently stand, but to do that in a way that somehow approximates some kind of dissident position, even as he's taking all of the exact same positions that the mainstream media is avidly promoting right now with respect to Ukraine, with respect to Russia, and so forth. And I as often happens, I record a video and then something occurs to me that I didn't talk about before, and then so I have to kind of go back to the subject again and remark and sort of make a sequel to my commentary before. What really strikes me as interesting and really I used the word bizarre in the title of my last video to talk about Spencer's current position on Ukraine, because it is bizarre, because he is promoting he's saying that two opposite things can be true at the same time. He's saying that Putin's invasion of Ukraine is in fact making NATO stronger, is making woke stuff in the West stronger. It's not really having the effect of posing a challenge to any of those things that dissident right thinkers despise about the current state of the Western world. But at the same time, he also wants to say, no, we should get behind this effort to fight Russia, because we need to engage we need to become passionately engaged in this new Cold War. It's so calculating the way he talks about it. But it's just like, we need to get engaged in this, and he's saying this in this way that makes it clear that he's not really engaged in it or in anything. But it's just this idea anyway in his mind, that if we engage with passion in Cold War II, that will in fact bring about a return of the West and the virtues of the traditional West. So which is it? Is this crisis making everything that's bad about the West even worse? Which is what he said the first time, or is engaging in this new Cold War going to actually have the effect of bringing back the virtue of the West and militating against everything that is degenerate in the West today? It seems like he wants to argue both of those things simultaneously, which is why I say that it's bizarre. I don't know whether he's aware of those contradictions. I mean, he's a smart guy. No matter what you think about him, Richard's not a dummy. So he must know on some level that this is not tenable, and yet he's promoting it anyway. Which is kind of a disturbing thing. Well, I just remembered what I wanted to add, or to append that earlier video with, was around the time that I knew Richard. I mean, I'm not saying I was best buds with him or anything, but we would communicate. We had he and I and Liddell, had our a podcast that we did, and I would be in touch with Richard, and we would communicate, and he would share his ideas, share his feelings about what was going on at that present time. And the more I spoke with him, the more I got the impression was that what really inspired him to try to organize this effort that was the alternative right, in its early inception. What really gave him the inspiration for that was how much he despised the mainstream right at the time. And what he seemed to despise most about the mainstream right at the time, not the time I knew him, but the time slightly before that, which is in the aughts, in the Bush years. What he really hated and despised about that time was the Gulf War. All of the chicken hawks, the neocons, the war. The pro Iraq War Republicans, and all of their minions in the conservative media, in like Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, and so forth, and how much he really despised that entire enterprise. Now, I never was entirely clear to me what he despised about it, because Richard was not. He's never been that's a war crime, that's so terrible kind of person. I am. I don't. I think war crimes are bad, whoever they are committed by, and I think they should be ruthlessly critiqued, and those who perpetrate them should be brought to justice and prosecuted. So, a lot of my opposition to the Iraq War back in the aughts, was based on the notion that it was a destructive war. It meant the deaths of not only a lot of American servicemen, but a lot of Iraqi civilians. Things like Abu Ghraib were a disgrace from a human rights perspective, and all the other sorts of things that one could say. And plus, it was it was empire. It was imperialism. The Buchanan kind of perspective on it. That America shouldn't be overextending, shouldn't be getting involved, shouldn't be intervening, becoming the world's policeman. All of those things, I really subscribed to myself during the aughts. In that sense, I was going against the grain of mainstream conservatism, and that was when I first sort of discovered what was it called back then? PaleoConservatism. And that was reflected in. I don't even know if the American conservative is that even still around. I don't know it. Maybe it is, but I haven't heard about it in a while. But the American Conservative and Chronicles magazine and others. Chronicles was older and kind of boomerier. The editor was this just this grouchy old curmudgeonly grump who I didn't particularly care for. But anyway, that was the sort of the PaleoConservatism which preceded the Ron Paul stuff. Ron Paul's runs for president in 2008 and then in 2012. Gosh, I'm sounding so much like a Politico, I love politics. I really, really don't. I really despise it but somehow I still absorb all of these things. But it seems like, anyway, returning to Richard Spencer, it seems like he really kind of cut his teeth on this stuff, on the paleocons, but he wanted something that was like the paleocons, but younger and hipper. And and what inspired him to go this route was this hatred of the neocons and their war in Iraq and their wanting to start wars other places. So for whatever reason, and I know it wasn't for humanitarian reasons, like it would be for me, for a bleeding heart like me, me. But Richard was never, was this sort of Nietzschean, will to power kind of guy. That was his. That was what he sort of underlying ethos of his way of thinking. But we still, got along, even though we saw things disparately in that way. But he started off by being an anti-warmonger. He started off by being against American imperialism, against neocon wars, against nation building, against policing the world. And now that I think of it, maybe it was more motivated by spite than anything else, by just, which who knows what motivated that. Maybe that was in turn motivated by jealousy, because maybe he was mad at Sean Hannity and others who were like him, because they had more, they had more power and more fame than he did. Although I will say this for Richard, I don't think he's ever been somebody who was hung up on. I think he has always had this conviction about himself that he is somebody who's already who's famous already. His fame is just it's all in the making. Even when he wasn't yet famous, or wasn't infamous yet as he became, he just seemed to sort of see it as, that's what I'm headed for. So I don't think he was like fuming at Sean Hannity and his ilk for their stance on the war in Iraq, but he was definitely anti-war at the time, and against America getting involved in wars across the globe. So that makes it extra bizarre that now he's in 2022 he's landing on this pro-war position, this belligerence, this embrace of belligerence, against Russia, which is again was a country that he at least for some time seemed to be, he seemed to be a fan of Putin, and he was critical of an article that I wrote that said you don't have to take Putin's side. You can be against the West and NATO and the degeneracy of the West, but that doesn't mean you have to embrace Putin and Russia and say that they're good either. You can just take the side of truth. That's what I believed then. That's what I still believe now. And I wrote an article about that where I call it the third position. I know that's a term that had been used before, but I was using it for my own purposes there. And when Richard read that article, he didn't like it. But now he's against Russia. He's against Putin, if only for Machiavellian reasons. And he's suddenly in favor of the United States, engaging in far-flung wars, some in some country, halfway across the world almost. It's not like it's in our vital interests to advance NATO eastward as far as possible, the way that NATO has been advancing over the last few years. But Richard has decided he's down with that. I just think it maybe shows, with all respect to Richard, which I still have for some reason. I still don't dislike the guy, even after everything. But I think this just shows that he just doesn't have convictions. He doesn't truly have convictions, and he just makes up these scenarios and wants to. He's very creative. I'll give him that. These original kind of scenarios where you can be a dissident by believing exactly what all the mainstream media is telling you through a bullhorn right now to believe, on steroids, right? To be not just in favor of Ukraine, of intervention in Ukraine, but wanting to spearhead another Cold War. He's come a long way, baby. That's all I can say. So thus concludes my thoughts on Richard Spencer and his bizarre new stance on Russia and Ukraine. Thanks for watching.